And hopefully there'll be a time where publishing catches up and then they start paying their editors more fairly and everything will transform and become better, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be, there will be external forces that act upon publishing houses inevitably that will force them to kind of do better, to innovate, do better by their authors and innovate. You know, Amazon and ebooks and e-readers, you know, forced publishers into the ebook space. Before that, they were very reluctant to go into that space. They're kind of still reluctant to be in that space in some ways. And I think there will be other like external forces that act upon publishers. Like when Penguin and Random House merged, the DOJ under Obama should have stopped the merger from happening, because as of now, Penguin Random House controls upward of 80% of the print market, the same way that Amazon has a monopoly on ebooks, on the ebook market. For some reason now, and I think it had to do with 2020, and the government taking more of an active role in companies and people's lives, they're trying to stop the merger of Simon & Schuster with Penguin Random House. You know, there's a lawsuit out against it. The merger between Penguin Random House, the way those companies positioned it was, we're going to make for a bigger company to be able to face down Amazon. And all they did in the process was they consolidated their businesses further. They basically kept the authors they liked, fired the staff they didn't need because they had duplicate. You know, why do we need, you know, 2 or 3 science fiction and fantasy departments when we can just have one, you know? So they were quietly getting rid of their back office and quietly getting rid of their real estate. So it was really a consolidation is what it was. And, you know, you went from like 6 major buyers down to 5 now. Before any of these big publishers were together, like you had many large independent publishers that you could go to. The landscape of publishing was like so much more vast. It was a better time. It was a healthier time for the industry and authors. And now there's just been way too much consolidation.
So what can authors do and what does Trident Media Group do in the face of that?
I mean, so in the face of that, we, you know, where we can, we've been outspoken against it. In our contracts with publishers, you know, we fight them on our boilerplates. Like publishers in the age of the internet, because some of these publishers, like Simon & Schuster or Skyhorse, were publishing these conservative authors that upset people, you know, with some of their rhetoric, or they published people who had kind of shady backgrounds and things like that. They started, because of the backlash from it, publishers started putting in their publishing agreements something called a morality clause, which basically gives the publisher the power to cancel the contract on the author and force the author to repay all the money if the author in any way disparages the publisher or the author's own book, or just even says anything online that the publisher deems, you know, kind of off color or whatever. And it's terrible for authors because, like, I mean, yes, on the one hand, it's meant to be like you keep people from, you know, let's say they're spreading hate speech. Okay, you can keep them from doing that. But freedom of speech is kind of this double-edged sword where when you limit freedom of speech, you know, it can hurt people in other ways, and it's a slippery slope. There's freedom of speech, but with a certain kind of license. And basically, we had to fight publishers on a lot of these morality clauses and place limitations there, so they couldn't use that as a means to try and get out of publishing agreements with authors. You know, they couldn't use that as an excuse when maybe something like that wasn't really what occurred. It's not because we don't want authors to be upstanding and moral. It's because we don't want publishers to use that against authors in any way, in a means to cancel their books. So we fight publishers on things like that.
It's such a strange thing to go to an author and say, hey, we're interested in you because you think things that other people don't think. And you say things that are different than what other people say. But by the way, we're also going to need you to conform. Well,
Yeah.
now,
Because then the publisher didn't like the backlash. They didn't like their employees were staging walkouts at the company. And then, but what other publishers started doing was when they paid a lot of money for a book. And then they were looking at their pre-order numbers, and the pre-order numbers weren't looking so good. And they said, well, wait a minute, this person said this thing online about this. And because we have a morality clause, we can get all our money back from the publishing agreement and cancel it on this author and just wash our hands of it. That's where it becomes a problem. So yeah, we fight publishers on things like that, things related to that.